reviewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto channel. I got this 94 F-150. It's got the big 5.0 in it. Came in with a customer complaint of a high idle that won't come down, and also you can't get it restarted once it's hot unless you hold it to the floor, and then it kind of runs kind of crappy after that. I'll be honest with you, getting the symptoms right offhand, first thing that comes to my mind is the coolant temp sensor. Particularly on these older cars, that was kind of one of the key players in the ECM logic. You know, that's one of the first things it's going to look at to determine, you know, how do we start, how much gas are we going to need, you know, particularly in open loop operation. And if it reads cold, you know, whatever number, say it's reading 10 degrees, 10 below, wherever it's at, if that's the problem, but indeed it's, you know, 60, 70 degrees outside, it's going to start. It's going to smell gassy typically because it's adding more fuel to compensate for what it perceives as cold weather, and then that will also essentially flood the engine. Once the engine's hot, you shut it off. Let's say it's up to operating temperature, but the coolant temp sensor says, you know, 10 degrees, 0. ECM is going to start based on, you know, what it sees. You know, it's not going to take the value from like the intake temperature sensor and say, wait a minute, you know, we got a problem here. They just didn't have the logic in them old ECMs to carry out processes like that. And also this vehicle is OBD1. Out of all the scan tools I have, I only have one OBD1 code reader or scan tool, and that's my Veris. But we also now have the new that CP9690 Actron that I got a little while back to upgrade this little guy. My old Actron, like I say, we bought that to upgrade it, and the cool thing about that is it comes with OBD1 adapters. It comes in its handy dandy carrying case, and it has what GM, Chrysler, Ford, and a couple Toyota OBD1 adapters that come with it, and of course your standard OBD2. So we're going to be testing that baby out, see if we can get some data stream. He doesn't have any check engine light. The engine light does work. I did test that, you know, key on engine off, it does work. So no engine light. And that's not uncommon with a coolant sensor that is skewed as opposed to just, you know, full on open circuit or short circuit. So let's check it out. So with the older OBD1 Fords, the connector lays in the back there. They've got the two connectors there, and you also, they don't have power supplied at that, so you actually have to supply power to it. Now you can't use just the batteries in the tool itself. You know, the tool has its own power source, but it will not work. Now, one thing I did notice, the connector they have for this is, it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really seat down in there. It's kind of wiggly, but it does work. So, and also it only comes with a cigarette lighter adapter. It does not come with the two alligator clips there and that adapter there. So if you're using this and you don't have this adapter here, of course I've got a couple of these kicking around the shop from whatever, I don't even know where I've gotten them. So if you don't have that, you're going to have all of this, you know, inside the car. But for this purpose, we're just going to keep it out here. So we'll reach in, we'll turn the key on and get started. Let's see if we can do this here. So we're going right from the main menu. Now I've already put the vehicle information in because I just wanted to make sure that worked before we started. But what we can do, I can just show you that process. We're going to have to go down to a manual ID. We'll pick US, and then we'll skip down here to 94. And truck, obviously, and then Ford. We'll pick F series, 5-liter, auto trans, and then it wants us to, you know, select one of the spots in our garage, they call it. And like I say, we've already picked it. And then this tells us that we need to use the EEC4, cigarette lighter barrel jack, make sure it's connected and all that business. And then, now this is kind of neat. I was kind of shocked to see all this on here because this is going to be all the same options that I would have even on the Veris. Ford's key on engine off, fast and slow codes, and key on engine running, fast and slow codes. It also has the factory wiggle test, the output switch test. So to get the definition of these, have a factory service manual to see. So basically your wiggle tests. I never used them a lot on this old stuff, but it, you know, basically energizes circuits, I believed, and then you could wiggle wires until you know, found the problem, and it would, you know, the tool would beep and things of that matter. So it appears to have all the same functions, like I say, a you know, higher end scan tool, which I was kind of shocked. But what we're going to do is read some data, of course, after I answer the phone. All right, we're back. Let's see. So we're going to go into the data stream. We'll pick the whole list because it shouldn't be that long. And there it is. So where are we? And there is our answer. So it was a good guess. So it's reading minus 11 degrees. Minus 12, kind of bounce around there. So we still have to look into that problem. But we can go down through and see that we actually have a pretty good data list on this thing, even though it's, like I say, an older vehicle. And we've got pretty much every engine sensor that's on it, which on these it wasn't a lot. You know, I think, what do we got? Just one oxygen sensor on this thing. Got our fuel trims, loop status, intake air temp. So you can see at 60, 62 degrees in shop. Of course, the truck, I only started it just enough to bring it in. And we can see that that's our problem. Let's see, we cannot graph it on this one. And OBD1, OBD2, it gives us the ability to graph. But in this one, it does not. So anyhow, just a little dig on the Actron here so we can look at that. I do know that I told you guys that we're going to do a review on the scan tool, but I knew the likelihood of me having an OBD1 vehicle in here was pretty low, so I thought we would just use it on this. So let's check out that sensor now. So on this little guy, the sensor lives right down here. We'll take and pull this air duct off so we can see it a little better. See much OBD1 around here. Most of this stuff has long been since put to its death. Most of these are in the crusher, being made into new vehicles. In the recycle bin. Truck's got a lot of miles on it. I actually put this engine in for this guy about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. Alright, so there she is. Now let's just see. We'll get set up here because this keeps flickering from like minus 10 to minus 13. I don't know if we're going to find a connection problem. It's still at minus 12. Let's unplug it. And this is where we're not going to have to really bust out, you know, any kind of meters or anything, because we just went to minus 40. I'll show you guys that there. So open circuited, it should go to minus 40. So it's going to be very similar to GM. And because it has done that, we really don't need to check a whole lot. What we can do is we'll go old school. So we're open circuited minus 40. When we go across the terminals, it's going to be like 256, 255, something like that, or at least it should be. 254 seems to be our magic number there. I'll get you guys zoomed in on that so you can see. So we just do open circuit and then, you know, essentially closed circuit. So yeah, 255. We'll take and open the circuit back up and it goes back to minus 40. So that's that. We're not concerned with anything else. At this point, it is 100% definitive. It needs a coolant sensor. No more circuit checks required. No test light, no fancy meters, no nothing. So I'm going to see if we can find us a coolant sensor. We'll cross our fingers that little guy comes out. We'll get her swapped out, see what our data does, start the truck up, make sure it comes off from a fast idle. We got one. BWD is all we can get today. And you know what that stands for? Broke when delivered. So there is our new one. Make sure our connector's right before we get too carried away. Connector appears right. I'm gonna have to put a little thread sealant on here. Thread seal, it's looking like it could use a new can. Taking, get that coated up. We're not going to drain all the coolant and everything out of it to do this. We're gonna go at it like a ninja, like super quick. Let's see, I got some sensor sockets here. What do we got? Because these are usually pretty good size. Somewhat fits. These are more for like oil pressure switches and stuff, but sometimes I use them because they've got the extra reach. We're going with this one. Even though it's not 100% correct. Should be enough to reach in there. No, it ain't gonna work on the OEM one. Let me grab, I don't know, what is this, probably 1 1/16, 1 inch, something like that. Inch. Yeah, oil pressure switch socket. I thought this had some coolant sensor sockets in here. Evidently not. Skip that plan. Just use a standard 1 inch socket. Yeah, the OEM one's a smidge smaller. Ooh, baby, like a tiger. Yeah, once we get it loose, you got no pressure on the cooling system. Let's see. Oh, I got a diaper right here sitting in my car. Let's see, we don't want to try not to get antifreeze all over his belts and stuff, so we'll stuff our diaper down here. That way, if it dribbles down, this will catch it before it hits the belt. You got antifreeze on the belt, the damn things will squeak forever. Alright. You guys ready? Oops. Well, it shouldn't have any pressure on it. Let me just pop the radiator cap off. Come on. Oh, it did have a little bit of pressure on it. Gosh, I didn't have the thing running very long. Just enough to pull inside here. So we'll put the cap back on it. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, come on. Come on. There we go. Perfect. That was easy. You can drain the coolant if you want, but we'll dump a little bit of hot water on top of the engine here, wash it down. Hardly spilled anything. Now these are pipe threads, so don't don't be an animal. You tighten these up. Just take them really snug. Now this goes into a steel housing, but I've seen people break intake manifolds putting in pipe plugs before. Put them in, you get a little too tight. Snap. Where is our? We lost the connector. Oh, she's hiding. She's just hiding down here. She doesn't want to be found. Which way does it go? That way. It's only got one ear left on it. So there's that. We'll mop up our mess a little bit. Hardly spilled anything, so we should be in good shape. Then we'll look at data, and then we'll start the truck up. Make sure that it works. Like I said, I would have let the truck warm up, but I had a pretty good suspicion that this is what we were going to find anyways, just based on symptoms. It's kind of a classic symptom. Okay. Let's plug it back in. Should boot up on its own. Now I haven't gone on and done any updates on this, so I'm not even sure if this tool is up to date. We're just going to pick out our previous one we had. I got the coat or the key on already. So it was pretty quick to load up, and there is our problem solved. So now we're reading correct. We can take and fire it up. We'll be good to go. So yeah, 71 compared to 62. We're golden, baby. on this tool, if you don't want to just toggle down through each one, if you're all the way at the top here, you just hit the right arrow, it'll take you a page at a time. There's the next page, there's the next page, and then hit the left arrow to go back. Alright, I'm going to have to answer the phone here, but we'll let her warm up a bit. I can hear it already came off the fast idle. Belt's chirping on there pretty good. You can see we're up to 145. It's warming up. It stinks, man. You can smell all the old gas burning out of there. I was concerned about his belt chirp. Look down here, this tensioner. I think it's about ready to leave town on him. So our belt tensioner is sitting on there pretty cockeyed. So that's going to be the one down there that's got the big spring on it. When we look down the alignment of the belt, you can see it's kind of half hanging off there, and our belt's riding way out on the edge of it. And I'm sure that's probably where his squeak is coming from. We're going to tell this old fella he needs a belt tensioner. Look at that, free tip Friday, man. And today's actually Friday. I just ordered his new belt tensioner. It's getting pretty obnoxious. Our thermostat just opened there. We can see it was just at 200. Should be dropping now. Awesome. Should have no problem restarting now. Oh man, that is obnoxious. That would drive me bananas. Let's see, you should start no issues. Beautiful. Alright, you should be happy with that. Fix that stinking squealing though, let me tell you. Alright folks, that's it. Belt and belt tensioner's on its way, so when that gets here I'll get that hooked up so the belt's not flinging off on him, quits making that obnoxious noise. I just wanted to show you guys the Actron there on an OBD1 vehicle, because we don't get to see these too often. Most of these are in the crusher, as we mentioned. I'll put a link in the description below where you can pick one of those up if you're interested in, you know, I mean, that's a fantastic tool in the shop. You know, I use it in the shop. It is limited. It is not, you know, the only tool you can have because it's limited. You know, we're looking at engine data. You know, you're not going to be checking out body modules and, you know, transfer case data and fuel pump controllers and stuff like that. But for a generic OBD2, OBD1 scan tool, it is fantastic, and it will it'll get you a long ways. We'll say that. I hope at some point to do some sort of, you know, review on it where we just kind of go through the menus and see a little bit of what it's about. I personally have a hard time doing like a tool review standalone type video, simply because I'd rather just use the tools in the shop and show you guys, you know, this works or this is junk. It's one or the other. And I think that has a little bit more credibility than just a standard tool review video. But I got to get the phone, so check us out on our socials. How do you stop this thing? And find us on Patreon and all that business. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.